Hello and welcome to MTG Deck Tech, your source for the freshest Magic the Gathering deck tips. And today we're gonna have a long video. So I'm going to take a look at every single card that has been spoiled for Theros Beyond Death and give you my 2 cents on it. Speaking about standard and limited, so I'm not gonna talk about older formats because I didn't play them, because I only play this game for like a year or so. And yeah, let's just start. First two we're gonna go in chronological order here, but the first two, let me just zoom that in some more. The first two we have already seen. It's Elspeth. I will link my Elspeth and Ashiok videos where I played the arena event in the description below. So Elspeth is a pretty nice card. It can make some tokens. It can give you some life. It can also pump your creatures, but it can only do that that often. So she only has 5 loyalty and she only ticks down. So I'm not that sure if it's that great in constructed. You can escape it to get it back from the graveyard for 6 mana, but yeah, if it was 4 mana escape, I would rather see it that way, but with 6 mana, I'm not sure if this will see too much constructed play. Maybe in mono-white Devotion I can see that the most. It's definitely a very nice limited card. You will definitely pick that every time if you can play white in your deck. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. It doesn't seem that great compared to the power level we have in the rest of the set and the rest of standard in general. So yeah, Elspeth is probably a mediocre card, but I don't think standard is its place. Ashiok, Nightmare's Muse, is definitely a card I expect to be in standard. 5 mana is a bit much. You don't see that many great 5 mana planeswalkers anymore. Most of them seem to be lower mana cost. But I think Ashiok is a very nice card. It can make you a Nightmare token, and that token can also exile 2 cards of your opponent's library if it attacks or blocks. You can recast these cards if you get to 7 loyalty and ultimate Ashiok. You can also return stuff to your opponent's hand, and your opponent has to exile something. So overall, very nice abilities here for Ashiok, and I think especially in mill decks, it can be very nice. We don't have that much stuff to support it, I think, in this set. But yeah, we'll see that when we get to the other cards. So we also have Ethereos. The Shroud Veiled. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, Ethereos is I think a nice creature. You can it's first of all it's enchantment creature. It's one of these legendary god creatures. It's indestructible, which is always nice. And as long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, Aphrios, almost said Ashiok again, isn't a creature. And at the beginning of your end stat, you put a coin counter on another target creature, and this creature won't die for the next time it would die. So that's a very nice card. I can see that totally being a thing in all of mid-range style decks. I think I'm gonna build around that a lot. I think it's just a very nice card. Having your stuff not die is always great. I was a fan of Chaos Ghost form when it came into a standard, but this is always a better thing because you can do it more often. 6 mana is a lot, but I think you can totally justify that playing this 6 mana card because it's so great. Yeah, limited if of course you play it also. You don't even have to make it into a creature. It just gives your creatures pretty much indestructible for 1 turn or something like that. I think no, you can't put multiple coin counters on a creature. That wouldn't help you because it would only get back to the battlefield without coin counters, I think. But we'll have to see if that's the case. We have Memory Drain. I'm not sure if you can read that now. No, I need to zoom more. I don't want to click on every single card because, yeah, especially Memory Drain is just counter spell, scry 2. Limited playable. I don't think it will see playing constructed. Inevitable End is a card I think is just crap. I don't see it having any role in any type of format, especially not in a standard and limited, but yeah, you can just sacrifice a creature at your end of your turn. This most of the time is a drawback. If you really need to sacrifice it, there is a better card coming up in this set, which can sacrifice you more creatures. But you could combine with this with some kind of indestructible creature to sacrifice other creatures. Yeah, but then you might have to sacrifice the indestructible creatures, so I don't think this will see any standard play or even limited play. A Maya's Grasp, on the other hand, will see limited play. That's a nice removal, -3/-3, will kill the most creatures. So it's also an enchantment, so if you have something that digs for enchantments, you can use that with Maya's Grasp. Revokes Existence is a very nice card both in standard and limited. You need a target, you need exiling of artifacts and enchantments, especially now that you have so many indestructible enchantment creatures. So exile, of course, goes around the indestructible effect, and you will have a very nice time playing that in your sideboard, maybe even in some main decks, depending on how the format's gonna shake out. But Revoke Existence, definitely a card I will play in any sideboard that has access to white. Heroes of the Winds. Hero of the Winds. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you get +1/+0 until end of turn. Yeah, this is just a limited card, not even a very great one. I'll certainly play that in some decks, but yeah, I'm not very excited about it. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. So it's one of those creatures where your devotion is your toughness. You get 1 life whenever a creature enters the battlefield or dies under your control. Yeah, it's nice and limited. Could be nice in mono white devotion because it has 2 white mana symbols. You can also see that getting play in some life gain decks. As I'm not very much of a white player, I'm not sure how to evaluate this. I think it could be nice, but I'm not that hyped about it. It's 2 mana, it's a nice creature. I don't think it's that great. Nyxbone Colossus, just 6 mana with 3 of them being green for a 6/7 enchantment creature giant. This is nice. I don't think it will see that many places in standard. You could play that in sort of giant deck, but I don't think this will be a good deck archetype. So I think that's just maybe in for mono green devotion type of limited decks will be very nice. Standard, I don't think so. Especially as it doesn't have trample or something like that. So the Acron War is a very, very complex card. First of all, you gain, I'm just gonna zoom some more here. First of all, you gain control of target creature your opponent controls for as long as this is on a battlefield. It's always nice. Some type of act of treason, but for a longer duration. Does cost 1 mana more, but you have to see the other stuff it does. Until your next turn, your opponent's creatures attack anytime they are able to. So you'll have a lot of creatures swinging against you. You can block them, you can destroy them. Your opponent essentially loses their agency on their combat step, which I think is a very nice removal. And also each tapped creature deals damage to itself on the 3rd lore corner. And yeah, I think it's a very nice removal, especially in limited. I don't know if it will see that much constructed play. You will also need your opponent to play creatures. You need them to not play that many indestructible creatures, because if everything is indestructible, that won't help you. Yeah, but I think it can see some play. Maybe as a sideboard card in standard more than a mainboard card, but in limited it will definitely be in every red deck that drafts it or gets it into the sealed pool. Underworld Ragehound attacks each combat if able. It's always a bad thing. You can escape it though, and it escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, I think this just limited. I mean, it's an elemental, so you might play it in some type of elemental deck. I'm not that hyped about it. It's limited playable, definitely. And the next card we have here is Clothis Design. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green, but it does cost 6 mana. Ooh. I don't think this will see play in standard, and I don't know if it will see play in limited, maybe as a finisher. Yeah, I can see that, but I'm really not that hyped about it. So let's go to the Citizen Champion. Constellation, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, +1/+1 counter on the champion and draw a card. I think this is limited playable. Constructed, we'll have to see how good the Aura enchantment decks are gonna be. I'm not that sure about it. Probably won't be that great, especially for free mana, because yeah, the card advantage is nice, but comparing it to the actual Innkeeper, for example, you have the advantage very much quicker than the Citizen Champion because it has 3 mana. So, not that sure about it. Staggering Insight, on the other hand, is a very nice card for Constructed, I think. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, has lifelink, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it draws you a card. So it's comparable to a Curious Obsession, draw you some cards. It will be nice in Azorius Flyer decks. And also other decks that are Azorius that play some kind of creature type, maybe in Banned Ramp or something. Yeah, it's just a nice card. You have lifelink, you have +1/+1, and you draw cards every time you are dealing combat damage. So this can get out of hand very, very quickly, and you shouldn't underestimate this card in any way, shape, or form. It's also an uncommon, so you will see that a lot in draft. So maybe if you want to draft Azorius, definitely a card to check out. It is an Aura, it gives you devotion to both the colors, and yeah, I think it's overall just a nice card. Commanding Presence, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 first strike. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, create a token. Yeah, it's 4 mana, so I'm not sure if it will see play in Constructed, probably not, but definitely gonna see some play in Limited, especially as an uncommon. It's just a nice card to give you some board advantage, some board presence, make some tokens. So yeah, I think that will be nice. So we have 2 more cards here with Ashiok and Elspeth again. With Ashiok, you draw cards, you put cards in your graveyard. Okay, so it is a very nice card discard engine. You can put a creature card from your graveyard under your control. You can steal everything from your opponent, but it is a 6 mana card. I don't think it will be that great. So Ashiok is again a card that mills your opponents and also yourself. You can put creature cards from your graveyard back onto the battlefield, and you can also gain control of your opponent's creatures. This could be nice at 6 mana. But I'm not too sure about it yet, if it can hold its weight against Liliana and other stuff. You are able to put any creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield, so that's a very nice card. We'll have to see about that. Elspeth, another Elspeth here, +1/+1 counter on 2 target creatures. We had that in the other Elspeth. This time it's a plus ability. Search your library and or graveyard for a card named Sunlit Hoplite. Haven't seen that card yet, so I have to see how that card works out. And this ultimate is gonna give you a lot of flying creatures. So I think it's a nice finisher in devotion decks, possibly in standard, definitely in limited. So I'll definitely watch out for that card. But it's also only Planeswalker, so you have to forget about the limited again. Treeshaker Chimera. All creatures able to block it do so. It's an 8/5, and you draw 3 cards when it dies. Holy moly. It is 7 mana though, but in green type rampy decks, definitely something I would want to play at some point. Limited, it's maybe too much mana, but we'll have to see. It's definitely a great finisher, and yeah, it's a nice card, definitely. Iron Scale Hydra, you can prevent the damage it gets dealt and put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ooh, that is insane. So it gets bigger every turn. It has 5 mana. It costs 5 mana, but I think especially in green decks, in mono green decks maybe, definitely a card I want to play. In limited, you'll definitely want to play that in any deck you have that has green. But wow, yeah, this looks great. But of course it dies to removal, so you're not gonna have that much fun with it, especially if your opponent has blocking creatures against it, doesn't have trample or anything, so you have to work around it a bit. But other than that, I think it's a very, very, very nice card. And see the next card. Deathbellow Warcry. Search your library for up to 4 Minotaur creature cards with different names, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. I don't know how many great Minotaurs we're gonna have. We'll have to watch out for that. It is a sorcery and it does cost 8 mana. I don't think this would see play anywhere if we don't have insane Minotaurs. Yeah, not the card I'm happy about. Terror of Mount Valus, flying and double strike, and creatures control gain double strike when it enters the battlefield. So that's a nice finisher. Maybe for mono red devotion or stuff like that, you can definitely see that being a thing. Also for some type of maybe Gruul ramp deck. Yeah, I'm not sure if that will be a thing in standard, but definitely for limited I will play this card. I'm not too sure about standard yet, probably not. It's too costly for that. Underworld Sentinel. When Underworld Sentinel attacks, exile target creature card from your graveyard. When it dies, put all cards exiled with it onto the battlefield. Woo! Yeah, in limited this will be definitely a nice card. It can get you stuff totally many creatures back from the graveyard. Constructed, it's too easy to kill it to be good, I think. So yeah, I don't think it will see play there. Demon of Loathing. Whenever Demon of Loathing deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature, and it has flying and trample, so you'll definitely get in with that. It is 7 mana though, so I think this will most likely see play in limited. I don't think it's good enough for standard, as standard is very packed right now, and 7 mana is a lot, especially in black. So maybe in some kind of Rampy style deck with some green splashed in, maybe this will work out. I'm not too sure about it in standard, especially if you can just kill it with a Murderous Rider. I don't know. Swing's Mindbreaker. Flying. When Swing's Mindbreaker enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top 10 cards of their library into the graveyard. Wow, this is a nice mill card, so yeah, I'll play that in mill decks. So if I have some Ashiok type mill deck, I'll definitely play the swings. Maybe not 4 copies because 7 mana is a lot, but this can really finish you the game when you're playing a mill deck. It's also great body, 6/6 and flying. So I will play that in limited as well, especially because limited decks are smaller and you can mill your opponent very easy with Swing's Mindbreaker. Serpent of the Yawning Depths. Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control can't be blocked except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Okay, I can see that if Serpents and stuff are gonna be good. I haven't seen that many Serpents yet, but maybe they will come. A 6/6 for 6 is okay, so definitely something I'll play in limited, especially because it won't be able to be blocked anyways, whatever you do with it, because it is a Serpent. It's also an enchantment, so that might be a good thing, could also be a bad thing if your opponent has stuff like Disenchant. So I watch out for that, especially in limited. So I have turned my camera off now, because I have anxiety issues, and speaking without a camera I can work a bit better. Speaking a long time gives me a bit of anxiety, so in this video we'll talk a long time again because we have a lot of cards to get into. So this is what I'm doing. Victory's Envoy. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Ooh, yeah, this can get out of hand pretty fast, especially in limited, where you don't have that much removal. I don't think it will see play in standard because yeah, you can just kill it with a lot of cards. It's only 3/3 at the beginning, so I don't think it will see much standard play. Grasping Giant, Vigilance, and when it becomes blocked by a creature, exile that creature until it leaves the battlefield. Okay, I can see that. I can see that being great. So I think this will apply before combat damage, so you can't really kill it by blocking. and it exiles your creatures that are blocking it. So it's good against indestructible things. So maybe the giant deck will be better after all, better than I expected. You can also definitely play that in limited, but in standard we'll have to see how much the giant deck really shakes out. But I can definitely see that getting play. It is 6 mana though, and it's a bit expensive. But 5/7 is a nice body, and vigilance you can also not underestimate. So yeah, I think that's a great creature. Clothis, God of Destiny, one of these legendary enchantment gods in the Gruul colors, and it has indestructible, of course. It has the devotion stuff with red and green, less than 7. It isn't a creature, of course. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you can exile a card off your graveyard. If it was a land, you get some mana, and otherwise you gain 2 life. And Clothis deals 2 damage to any other opponent, so it's only 3 mana. And this is insane. I will definitely play that in my Boros aggro decks. And yeah, I think it's just an insane card. I mean, you can ping your opponent, you can ramp yourself, whatever you have in your graveyard. Of course, you will need to get stuff in the graveyard, so it might not be that great at the very beginning of the game. But seeing as this is indestructible for 3 mana and you have a 4/5 body, that is insane. I think this card will be one of the best cards in the format. Definitely worth checking out and spending your mythic rare wildcards on, I think. Gary, the Grey Merchant of Aspafel. Yeah, it pings your, or it drains your opponent for X life and X is your devotion to black. So this is one of the greatest cards, I think, in this format. It is uncommon, holy moly. I will definitely play that in every mono black devotion deck, and I will play a lot of mono black devotion decks, because I think because of the Grey Merchant of Aspafel, it will be one of the greatest deck types. I will definitely look to build around that first. So mono black devotion will be my first deck I will be building. Maybe I'll build the Gruul first, but I think mono black and Gruul are the things I'm most excited about until now, at least seeing these cards. Binding of the Titans. Each player puts the top 3 cards of their library into the graveyard, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards, you gain life for that, and you also return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand on the 3rd lore counter. So definitely something I will be playing in conjunction with Clothis. I don't know if I will play it in Constructed, but it is a nice way to get cards into your graveyard for the Clothis stuff. So definitely if you get Clothis in Limited, you will want to get at least one of those Bindings of the Titans to get stuff into your graveyard. Allure of the Unknown. Reveal top 6 cards of your library. An opponent exiles a non-land card from among them. Then you put them... Just gonna zoom in some more. Then you put the rest into your hand. Your opponent may cast exiled card without paying its mana cost. I don't think this will be that great. So you will get 5 cards in your hand. This is insane. But your opponent can cast the best card out of them. Without paying the mana costs even. So if you have a deck that doesn't play very impactful cards, that has a lot of small cards that don't do much, you'll definitely want to play that. But at 5 mana, you will not be an aggro deck, so I'm not sure if this will work out in any point. So I'm definitely not hyped on this card. Guardian of the Endless Dance is a legendary satyr. It has haste. Other satyrs you control get +1/+1 and have haste. And whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may discard a card at random if you do draw 2 cards. So that's nice if you don't have a full hand. So if you only have 1 card in your hand or something, definitely if you don't need that card, you can activate that ability. It would be a very nice card if it wasn't legendary, because you could play 2 or 3 Gallias that just pump each other, sort of like the Fervent Champion. But with that being legendary, I'm not sure if it's really better than the Zutar Goblin in these type of Gruul decks. We'll have to see about that. It does give you devotion to both red and green, so that's relevant for Clothis. Yeah, but I'm not sure yet if this will find place in Gruul decks. Definitely in Limited, but in Constructed, I'm not sure about that. Timurid Calls the Dead. First two lore counters, you put 3 cards of your library in your graveyard, then you exile a creature of enchantment and create a 2/2 black zombie token, and in the third chapter you gain X life and scry X, where X is the number of zombies you have. Yeah, there has been much of a suggestion comparing that to History of Benalia. I don't think it's as great as History of Benalia. For 3 mana, you can make two type of zombie creatures, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's a great card. You have to exile stuff from your graveyard to even get it going. It can mill you some, that's a good effect, but nah, just don't see that being great. Okay, so Storm's Wrath. Storm's Wrath deals 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. That's a nice Wrath effect. For Limited, not sure if it will be great in Standard. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what you can do with enchantments and stuff like that in Red. I don't think it will see that much play. First for Meaning, you draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an enchantment card. Okay. So this can really be nice card advantage in Limited. I don't think it's good enough for Standard because discarding 2 cards is just... I mean, it could work in some kind of Arclight Phoenix deck. So you could see that there, or you're definitely gonna see that there. But otherwise, not sure. Nilia Keen-Eyed. It's a legendary enchantment god. Devotion to green less than 5. It isn't a creature. Creature spells you cost 1 less to cast, and you can reveal the top of your library, and if it's a creature card, you put it into your hand and otherwise into the graveyard. So I will definitely play that in mono green. I could also play that in Gruul because it gets stuff into the graveyard for Clothis. So I think that's a very nice card. Limited, of course, you play that. And yeah, mono green Devotion is gonna be a nice deck. I'll definitely try that out. I'm a fan of mono green anyways, so we'll have to see how that will shake out. Woestrider. This is the card that will make it very easy for this type of sacrifice decks to sacrifice stuff. You create a go token, you can sacrifice another creature at any point to scry 1. You can escape this card, and when it escapes with some counters. So Woestrider, just a very nice card for these sacrifice decks. I'm not sure how great the sacrifice decks will be, because there is a lot of stuff that can exile your graveyard or exile certain cards from your graveyard. So I'm not that optimistic about sacrifice decks, but Woestrider definitely is a very nice addition for them. So yeah, let's just see how that shakes out. I can't really predict it right now, but Woestrider definitely a nice card. And Limited might not be as great, but still 3/2 for 3 mana. It's just a great card overall. So very great in Constructed, very great in Limited. Underworld Breach. Each non-land card in your graveyard has Escape, and the Escape cost is equal to the card mana cost plus exile 3 cards from the graveyard. And at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice it. So this could be a very nice combo card. People are already building decks around it. I think it will be nice in Limited as well to get stuff out of your graveyard. But I'm not sure how much play it will see in other decks other than combo decks, because it is very costly. It does only cost 2 mana itself, but you have to exile or you have to escape cards in that turn, and that can cost you a lot of mana. It will also cost you some cards from the graveyard. So I'm not sure how great this Underworld Breach is going to turn out to be, but definitely see some combo cards, combo decks going in. The temples. So there are temples now that weren't in the last set. You scry 1, it enters the battlefield tapped. We know these cards. These cards are very great for slower type of decks that can also be great against aggro. So if you have ways to get through the onslaught of aggro decks, you can definitely use these cards. as type of late game scrying engines. I don't think they're great in aggro decks, so yeah, I won't be playing that many temples, but in certain decks I will definitely play 1 or 2 of them. Okay, Erebos the Bleak-Hearted. It is an instructable, another of those enchantment god creature with the devotion mechanic of 5, and whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, you draw a card. So you can also sacrifice a creature to target creature gets -2, -1. So you can remove small stuff with it. You can use it as a combat trick. You can draw some cards. And that's a very nice card in these Mono Black Devotion decks. So I think I'm very hyped about Mono Black Devotion. And I will definitely play that there. Okay, Field of Ruin. It has been brought back to destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Would have been very nice in the field meta, so maybe they unban Field of the Dead now. I don't hope so, but yeah, Field of Ruin was really the counter against that. Nyx Lotus enters the battlefield tapped, choose a color, you add an amount of mana, that color equal to your devotion. I might play that in some devotion decks, but 4 mana is a bit expensive, but especially for those big creatures, Nyx Lotus can be a nice addition, and especially in limited it will be great. Brine Giant costs 1 less for each enchantment you control. Could be very nice in an enchantment deck, it could be very cheap, 5/6. Of course it will be dependent on how great your game went, so maybe it's a kind of win more card, but I can also see that being a staple of some enchantment decks, so yeah, I look forward to play with this card. Limited, I don't know, if you can draft the enchantments you'll definitely get that, otherwise you just, yeah, leave it be. Ox of Agonas. When it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, you draw 3 cards. It can also escape, and it escapes with a +1/+1 counter. I think it's a bit too expensive to really be worth it, so even if it's mythic, I don't think you'll have to spend a wild card for that. Not by a long shot. You will play it in limited, definitely. We have Purpurus, it's the red type of god, also with the devotion mechanic, and other creatures you control have haste. And you may put a red creature and artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So you can get really big creatures on the battlefield for 1 turn. So yeah, maybe in mono red type of mid-rangey aggro type of decks, you'll definitely see that seeing play. Also, of course, in limited, because it's just a great body. If you have a mono red devotion, this is just great. And yeah, you will definitely want to play that there. Storm Herald. Haste for a human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, you return any number of aura cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, attached to creatures you control. So yeah, if you play an aura deck that has red in it, I'm not sure if there will be many decks of it, maybe some Boros style of deck, but then it will definitely be a great card to play. Limited, you will definitely want to play it. 3/2 with the haste for 3 mana is just a great card. And yeah, it has some upside. So, Kunoros, Hound of Aetherios, Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink. Creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, so that's the perfect counter against stuff like the cat food decks. And yeah, you also can't cast spells from graveyard, so you'll have the escape cards eliminated. And yeah, that's a nice card in some kind of Orzhov mid-range deck, which I will definitely be trying to build. Cling to Dust. Exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, gain 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. You can escape this for 4. Yeah, that's great against graveyard and limited, but I don't think it will see that much constructed play because you only exile 1 card. Treacherous Blessing. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. Whenever you cast a spell, you lose 1 life. And when it becomes the target of a spell, you sacrifice it. So I'm not sure. Drawing 3 cards with downside, I don't think it will see that much play. Even in limited, I don't think it's that great. It is okay. Drawing 3 cards is okay in limited, but yeah, I'm not sure about it in constructed. Probably not. Escape velocity. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. You can escape this card, so you have this red aura that can work with the Storm Herald. But I don't think it will be that great. In limited, you will definitely play it. In constructed, you don't want that type of card. Nadir Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, +1/+1 counter on Nadir Kraken, and you create a tentacle token. So I can see that working in some kind of blue card draw deck. We will have some other card draw cards in this set, so that could definitely work out. It's very nice in limited, of course, and yeah, it's just a very nice card all around. Aphemia, the Cacophony, flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So that's nice in limited. I'm not sure if it will see that much play in standard. It is an enchantment that could work itself out pretty nice, but I don't think it's great enough even in mono black devotion because it only has 1 black mana symbol. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. One with the stars. Enchant creature or enchantment, so you can enchant an enchantment. Interesting. Enchant permanent is an enchantment and loses all other card types. So you can make your enchantment creature into just an enchantment, but then it wouldn't attack anymore. Yeah, I'm not that sure. You can also enchant your opponent's enchantment creature to not make it an enchantment anymore. Okay. To not make it a creature anymore. But yeah, maybe in limited, but 4 mana, I don't think I'll even play that in limited. Inspire Awe. 4 mana, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, except combat damage that would be dealt by enchanted creatures and enchantment creatures. Okay, I can see that being played in limited, not in standard, because 4 mana is just too much to pay for that. Even with the scry at the end, I'm not sure that will be that great in standard. Devourer of Memory. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, Devourer of Memory gets +1/+1 until the end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. And you can put cards from your library into your graveyard. Okay. So some self-mill action with the Dimir going. It can't be blocked, so yeah, maybe in self-mill Dimir decks you will definitely try that out. If it's that great, I'm not sure. You probably won't play that much, but we'll have to see about that. It could be very nice playing some of those. Heliod Suncrowned. Indestructible God, white devotion, you know the drill. Whenever you gain life, +1/+1 counter on target creature and enchantment you control, and another creature can get lifelink. So people have talked a lot about it being good in older formats. I'm not sure, I don't know these formats. In standard, I think it will be nice in life gain decks and maybe in mono white devotion decks. Or not maybe, it will be very nice in mono white devotion because it's a devotion card. I don't think it's that great though. I think it's being overrated, especially for standard and limited. Other older formats I can't speak about. Idyllic Tutor. Search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Okay. Definitely something worth noticing because we have so many great enchantments that could play out very nice. You can also get enchantment creatures, of course. It is white though, and white is typically not the greatest color, but maybe this set will make it a bit better. We have seen some great white cards, but I'm not sure if it will be top tier again. Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. Menace. When Atris enters the battlefield, target opponent looks at the top 3 cards of your library, separates them into face down pile and face up pile, and then you put one pile of them in your hand and the other in the graveyard. So that's a card that will be very skill intensive because your opponent will have to watch out what type of cards they want to put in each type of pile, and you will have to watch out on which pile you really want to take. So there's gonna be a lot of mind games, a bit like poker here, but we'll have to see how great that really is. definitely I will try it in some Dimir decks. If it was 3 mana, it would be very nice. In 4 mana, still a nice card. Menace, you can't underestimate that. So yeah, I definitely try that out. It is legendary though. That's a bit unfortunate. Whenever Towering Wave Mystic is the next card, whenever it deals damage, target player puts that many cards from the top of their library into their graveyard. So you can see yourself pumping that, making it really big, and just milling your opponent for a lot. So yeah, I'll definitely try out some mill decks in case you haven't noticed yet. So this will definitely be a card for that. Mire Triton, Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, put the 2 cards of your library into your graveyard and you gain 2 life. Some nice self-mill. You'll definitely see that in Dimir self-mill or something like that. You can also play that in Limited because Death Touch is very nice and gaining 2 life is very nice, and milling yourself can also be very great depending on your deck. So you'll definitely see that played in Limited. The Birth of Meletis. Search your library for a basic Plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand and shuffle your library. Create a colorless wall and you gain 2 life for 2 mana. I don't know, if you're really a control deck and you really need to get over these first turns, you'll definitely play that. I don't think it will see that much play otherwise. But yeah, you can definitely play that in Limited to get over your first few rounds. It ramps you a bit, it makes you a wall, it gains you life. So yeah, definitely something you want to play, especially in control decks. Okay, now the cards we have in this year. This is getting longer than I expected, or it's getting harder than I expected at least. When Citizen Pioneer enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to your devotion to green. So mono green devotion, might want to play this, but I think there are better cards. You don't really need the life gain in mono green because you have a lot of blocking creatures. So I don't think it will be seeing much play outside of Limited, but yeah, we'll have to watch out for that. But I think it's a Limited card mainly. Glimpse of Freedom. Draw a card, escape free. You can just draw cards and exile it. I don't think it's that great. Even in Limited, I don't think it's good. So let's just skip ahead to the next card. Sweet Oblivion. Target player puts the top 4 card of the library into their graveyard and you can escape it. So definitely a nice mill card. I'll definitely play that in my mill decks at some point. May also be nice in Limited because you can mill your opponent very easily in this format again. Dalakos, the Crafter of Wonders. You add 2 generic mana. You can also only spend that to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts, and the quick creatures you control have flying and haste. Could be nice in some kind of artifact type deck. We don't have that many artifacts, so it won't be nice in Limited, but I can see that being playable in Standard maybe. I'm not sure, the colors aren't that great. Red doesn't really care that much about artifacts. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. We'll have to see. Reverend Hoplite. When Reverend Hoplite enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 human soldier tokens equal to your devotion to white. Yeah, that's a nice card to get your board full in white. So White Weenie is definitely gonna come back with the devotion type deck. Could be nice in Limited as well. So yeah, definitely a card I watch out for. But 5 mana is a lot, so we'll really have to see about that. Okay, so after a small break, I put back my camera on. I don't know how long I will be able to speak with that camera on, but we'll have to see. So we have the Chain Web Arcaneer. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature with flying and opponent controls, and you can escape it with 3 +1/+1 counters. So that's basically the Crawl Harpooner we have seen already, but it's, I think, worse. But for 1 mana, we'll definitely have to take a look at it, maybe in sideboards, definitely in Limited, but other than that, I'm not sure if it will see that much main deck play. We have the Nessian Boar, 5 mana creature boar. all creatures able to block it do so, and whenever it becomes blocked, that creature's controller draws a card. Yeah, so the last thing really doesn't help it very much. Your controller of the creature blocking it, drawing a card, and it also has 5 mana. It is very strong though, and I'm not sure. It can remove a lot of pieces in the battlefield. I think you only draw 1 card each time you block it. So if you block it with multiple creatures, which you will have to do if you have multiple creatures, it will only draw you 1 card. So maybe it's very nice. It can be very nice. Still hard to evaluate. 10 power is very, very insane. It's definitely a limited playable card. If it is constructed playable, I'm not even sure, because constructed is so strong right now. Rise to Glory, choose one or both. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and return a target aura card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So definitely something I will play in the order of mid-range decks. 5 mana is a lot though, so I'm not sure about that, how it will work out yet, but could see some play in orders of mid-range. Limited, I'm not sure, it's a bit expensive for that, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. I'll definitely try it out because it's an uncommon, you can draft it anytime. So yeah, maybe we'll see that in limited. Ferricus Spawn, it's a Gorgon escape with 5, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, and it escapes with 2/1/1 counters on it, and when it enters the battlefield escaping, each opponent sacrifices a non-Gorgon creature. Yeah, some nice removal with that in a limited. I don't think it's constructed playable because it's just too weak for 4 mana, and yeah, it's a nice limited card there. Nyxborn Cursor is just a limited playable card, nothing more to see about that, it's not even that great. Indomitable Will, flash, enchanted creature gets +1/+2, it's a limited card again. Warden of the Chained, 1 mana and the Boros, or not the Boros, but the Gruul. You have a Trample. Warden Chained can't attack unless you control another big creature. So maybe in Gruul Beatdown this could be okay. I don't think it will be in standard, but definitely in limited you could play that if you have a lot of big creatures. Vanishing Light, you can exile a non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield. So essentially, what's the card's name? So essentially it's a prison realm for other type of cards, for example enchantments and artifacts. So this will be a very nice card as a removal piece. Definitely in sideboard, possibly in many main boards, in limited, in constructed, whatever you want. It's a nice card. Ashok's Erasure. When it enters the battlefield, you exile a target spell, and your opponent can't cast spells with the exiled card. So it's a bit of Ixalan's Binding type of effect. It's also a counter spell that isn't really a counter spell. So if you have a creature that can't be countered, you can counter it with Ashok's Erasure. So definitely something I will see in some sideboards, I think. Limited, you will definitely want to play it, but yeah, I don't think it's that great, especially in the main deck, but definitely in the sideboard. And yeah, even more stuff to counter me, so I'm not that hyped about that. Blood Aspirant, Satyr Berserker, so that's one of the Satyrs. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on the Aspirant, and you can sacrifice a creature or enchantment and deal 1 damage to target creature, and it can't block this turn. So maybe something for the sacrifice decks. 2 mana for 1/1 is pretty bad, but it might work in the sacrifice decks. You can play that in limited, but yeah, it's not that great of a card, really. Arrester of the Endless Web. Reach, whenever you your opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, you would make spider tokens, and it is 4 mana, legendary. I don't think it's great enough to play in constructed, but in limited I'll definitely see that being played, especially it being an enchantment and stuff like that, and you have a lot of enchantment heavy type of decks, you can definitely play that in limited. Okay, so I turn my camera off again. It's better that way. Tectonic Giant. When it attacks or becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, you choose one. 3 damage to each opponent, or exile top 2 cards of your library and you choose one of them, and until the next end of your next turn, you may play that card. So it's some kind of light up the stage type of effect. You can also deal damage to your opponent directly. So in red decks, especially in red devotion decks, because it has 2 red mana symbols, I can definitely see that getting some play. Limited, you don't have to talk about it, it's a great card, but in standard, I think it will also see some play. Nyx Herald, enchantment creature, centaur or shaman. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, target enchantment creatures or enchantment creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So especially the trample ability, I think, will make this card very, very nice. Maybe in a mono green devotion, maybe even in some kind of Brule deck, and maybe other types of decks too. I think it's a great card, even in standard. It's a bit expensive for standard, but I think it will work out. So I'm expecting Nyx Herald to play a role in some type of green devotion decks I'm gonna build. Wavebreak Hippocamp. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. So that's nice for the flash deck. It doesn't have flash itself, so that's the downside. So I'm not sure how much play it will see in this flash decks, but it could definitely work itself into one or two of those. Polacrinus Unchained, it enters the battlefield with 6 +1/+1 counters and it escapes with 12. If damage would be dealt to it while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. And that many is important because it can get small very fast. You can also fight stuff with it. Yeah, we'll have to see. It could be very great because 6 +1/+1 counters are a lot and 12 are even greater. But with all the great creatures running around in this format, I'm not sure if it's the best. It will definitely see some play in some kind of what are they called? Golgari. It will definitely see some play in some Golgari type of decks, but yeah, we'll have to see. Nylea's Invention. You can choose one, search your library for up to X land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. And it can also deal twice the damage to each creature with flying. So maybe a sideboard card against flyers decks. You can also search your library for a lot of land cards. But I don't think it's great, really, because 2 green mana and you have to pay another mana for each card you search. I don't think it's that great at any stretch of the imagination. Next up we have Final Death. For 5 mana you can exile target creature. It's definitely nice in limited to deal with all these indestructible creatures. You don't play that in constructed though, because it's just too expensive. Drag to the Underworld. 4 mana, the spell costs X less to cast, where X is your devotion to black. So you can basically cast that for 2 and you destroy target creature. So even more reason for me to play these mono black devotion type of decks. It's just a very nice removal card for that. Stinging Lionfish, enchantment creature fish. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, you may tap or untap target non-land permanent. Maybe gonna see some play in some type of flash decks, but yeah, it doesn't have flash itself, so probably not that great, even in limited. I'm not sure if this will see a lot of play. Archon of Falling Stars. Create your Archon flying. When Archon of the Falling Stars dies, you may return target enchantment card for your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, this can definitely work. It's a bit expensive for 6 mana, but you'll definitely try that in limited. I'm not sure about constructed though. It's a bit heavy, a bit expensive. Next up, Omen of the Sea. Enchantment, flash, when it enters the battlefield, you scry 2, then draw a card, and you can sacrifice it to scry 2 again. It's a bit expensive. In limited, you'll definitely want to play that for the card advantage. It does have flash, that's a nice thing. But yeah, I don't think it will see that much play in standard. Okay, Dawn Evangel. Whenever a creature dies, if an aura you control was attached to it, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, it's just not that great. Maybe in limited you can play that with if you play a lot of auras, but definitely not in the constructed format. The Triumph of Annex. The first 3 law corners until end of turn, target creature gains trample and gets +X+0, where X is the number of law corners on the Triumph. And the 4th type of counter is target creature you control fights up to 1 target creatures you don't control. I think this is a limited card. You can play that in your mono red decks maybe. I think it will be great in that, but otherwise, not that hyped about it. It doesn't. The first 3 are not that great, and the 4th counter is also not that great. So no standard play for this one. Scavenging Harpy. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, exile target card from opponent's graveyard. Maybe you play it in limited if you don't have any greater cards to play. Other than that, it's just trash. Phoenix of Ash. 3 mana, flying haste. Phoenix of Ash can get +1/+2/+0 for some mana. It can also escape with a +1/+1 counter on it. I think that's a great card to play in Mono Red Devotion. Flying is very nice. Haste is also a nice addition. So you definitely want to play that in Mono Red Devotion. Other than that, I'm not sure how great it is. Thassa, Deep Dwelling. It's Indestructible God, the blue god. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, it isn't a creature, of course. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 other target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield on your control, and you can also tap another target creature. So this is definitely a card that can give you a lot of enter the battlefield triggers, so maybe in a Yarok deck or some mono blue type of deck that does the same thing. I think it will be a nice enchantment and also a nice creature. Next up, we have Caliph, Beloved of the Sea. A Caliph's power is equal to your devotion to blue, and creatures and enchantments you control have spells your opponent cast targeted permanent cost 1 more to cast. I don't think it's that great in mono blue maybe, but yeah, it's not that great to have your opponent just pay 1 more mana. It's nice in the early game, but the later the game gets, the worse it becomes. Also for 3 mana, I don't think that's that great. Omen of the Forge. Enchantment, flash, when it enters the battlefield it deals 2 damage to any target and you can sacrifice it to scry. So maybe in your red enchantment deck it can work, but I don't think it will be seeing too much constructed play, only limited. Hector's the Unscarred is a card that can that can gain protection against some kind of mana source at random. It has a protection depending on what it rolls, if it's a 2, 3, or 4. So it could be very easy to kill. It can also be very hard to kill depending on your opponent's deck. And I will definitely build some type of Boros deck around it, I think. Next up, we have the Shimmerwing Chimera. It has flying. It has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you return up to 1 other target enchantment you control to its owner's hand. Yeah, I don't think you'll play that, but you can play it if you have some enchantment that gets enter the battlefield triggers. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it will see play in standard. I don't even see it being good in limited, so yeah, it's not a great card. Omen of the Sun. Flash enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens and you gain 2 lives. You can sacrifice it to scry 2, so that's a nice card in some type of control deck maybe. You can get over the early game, but other than that, In limited it could be nice, but constructed I don't see it being that great. The first Ironian games, first you create a 1/1 soldier, then you put 3 counters on anything. You can also control, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you draw 2 cards and you create a gold token. Yeah, it's not really that exciting. It's good in limited, but for constructed, I don't think it will be that great. Timurev, Chosen from Death. Its toughness is equal to your devotion to black. Exile up to 2 target cards from graveyard to gain 1 life for each creature card exiled that way. So it's definitely something I put in my mono black devotion. It can help me with some cat oven decks, so this is one of the reasons I think sacrifice might not be as great. But if you can ping your cat back from the graveyard, you can of course evade that. So that's something you have to keep in mind. But you could use that multiple times a turn, so maybe this will help you get rid of the cats. Pious Wayfarer has Constellation. When an enchantment enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1. Nice limited card. Not sure if it will see constructed play. Maybe in mono white devotion. Not sure. Erebos Intervention. Target creature gets -X/-X. You gain X life. Exile up to twice X target cards from graveyards. That's again some type of graveyard hate. I think for 1 mana and an X, it's a very nice card to play in any sideboard really. And you can also put that in some main decks, maybe in the mono black devotion again. Yeah, it's just a great card all around. Definitely a limited playable, but even in standard, I think it can be a very nice card to play. Next up, we have Theros Invention. You choose 1, create an X1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste, and sack it at the beginning of your next end step. Theros Intervention deals twice X damage to target creature or planeswalker. So this is a very nice card. You can do a lot of damage with the first version of this card, but with the second mode, you can also do a lot of damage to creatures and planeswalkers. So definitely something I will put into my red decks as a nice removal spell. It can also scale well into the late game. That's a problem you have with red cards sometimes. They don't really scale that well into the late game. But it's definitely some kind of Banefire type effect here, and yeah, you like to have that. Naiad of the Hidden Coves. Naiad of the Hidden Coves. As long as it's not your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So maybe something for the flash deck. Yet again, it's not a flash card, and yeah, I think it will be limited to limited play. But we'll have to see. Maybe it gets into some flash decks, but I don't really think so. Shoal Kraken. Constellation, when an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So some looting effect. 5 mana for a 3/5. It's not that great. Maybe in limited it's playable, but in constructed definitely not playable. Vexing Gull, flash flying a bird with 2/2 for free. Yeah, it's a limited card. I don't think it will see any play in constructed. Maybe in some flash decks, but probably not in good flash decks. So yeah, that's not a great card for standard. Arena Trickster is when you cast your first spell during your opponent's turns. One of these cards again. Put a +1/+1 counter on Arena Trickster. So it starts as a 3/3 for 4, but it can get bigger and bigger. But yet I don't think it will see play outside of limited, and even in limited it's not the best card you can have. Certainly playable, but yeah, it's not the greatest card, not a build around or anything. Siona, Captain of the Pilius. When Siona enters the battlefield, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal an aura card and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. Whenever an aura becomes attached to a creature you control, create a 1/1 token. So this might be interesting in some kind of Celestia enchantment deck, Celestia tokens, but I think it's mainly a limited card as well, because it's a bit slow, and yeah, the top 7 cards might not have an aura in it if you don't play insane amount of auras. So yeah, I don't think it's a very nice card to play in a standard. Aureate of Mountain Blaze. You can discard a card, draw a card with this enchantment creature. I think it's just a limited playable card, and even in limited it's not that great. It's just too expensive to discard a card and draw a card. But yeah, in limited, sometimes you have to play these types of creatures. Eutropia the Twice Favored. Constellation, blah blah blah, when it enters the battlefield, you know the drill. +1/+1 counter on target creature, and this creature gains flying until end of turn. Yeah, in an enchantment deck, I can see that. I don't think it will be that great in standard, but in limited, you can definitely play that one. Discordant Piper. When Discordant Piper dies, create a 1/1 white goat creature. It's just a limited card, not even a very great one. Dryad of the Elysian Grove. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. That's a great effect. Lands you control have every basic land type in addition to their other types. So does that mean they can make other mana? That's what I'm worrying about. If it means they're only the type and they can't make any other mana, it's not that great. But yeah, I can definitely see that as a mana fixer going in there somewhere if you have, if that actually means you can make other types of mana with your forest, for example. But playing an additional land each turn is definitely a nice thing to have. Free mana is a bit expensive, so maybe constructed, I'm not that sure about. But in limited, you can definitely play this one. Eat to Extinction. Instant. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. So it's an exile and essentially a surveil without the surveil keyword. So you can't use it with stuff that cares about surveilling. And yeah, it's just a nice removal for your limited environment. I don't think it will see that much play in standard. Gravebreaker Lamia. 5 mana, lifelinker. When Gravebreaker Lamia enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. It's nice in case you're doing some type of graveyard style deck with escape cards or maybe with the cat oven style of deck. But also you cast your spells from your graveyard 1 less mana. It's also a nice effect. But yeah, I don't think these graveyard decks are gonna be too great because you have so many things that can exile stuff. You have the Leyline of the Void, you have many cards that we've already talked about in this set, so I'm not that hyped about Escape and Graveyard yet. We'll have to see how good the Graveyard hate really becomes. Mantle of the Wolf, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets 4/4, +4/+4. And when the mantle is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, create 2/2 wolf creatures. So that's an aura that replaces itself, its power essentially. And I think that's definitely a playable aura in some green decks. Maybe in Gruul Aggro, maybe in Green Devotion, but it only has 1 green mana symbol, so that's not that great for that. But it's definitely a card I want to play and put into some decks. And maybe if you have some enchantment style deck where you can get auras back and stuff, it's definitely a nice card to have. Limited, it's just insane. So a card I definitely want to try out. Renata, Call to the Hunt. Renata's power is equal to your devotion to green, and each other creature you control enters the battlefield with +1/+1 counters. 4 mana. We do have a lot of good things in 4 mana slots, questing beast and stuff like that. So maybe this will see play in devotion decks. I'll definitely try that out in mono green devotion, but I probably won't play 4 of those because yeah, legendary and it's not that great. So maybe 1 or 2 off. But it's definitely something I will watch out for. In limited, you can definitely play that in your devotion deck. So in limited, essentially, I think we're gonna have a lot of devotion decks running around because it's so easy to build them. You don't need to have as many lands in your deck or as many different lands. You get your mana easier. So maybe we're gonna see some nice devotion decks in limited, especially in draft. Annex, Hardened of the Forge, 1 and 2 red. Annex power is equal to the devotion in red. Whenever it or another non-token creature you control dies, create a satyr. So this can make you some satyrs that can't block. But yeah, I think it's a nice piece in the mono red devotion. Definitely gonna try that out. You can play that in limited as well. It's a very nice card, very good card you want to play. Fricks, the Sudden Storm. Flash flying, spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or greater, cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. I always love cards that have the can't be countered on it because I hate counter spells. but it's in blue, where you definitely could just play Mystical Dispute or something like that. Also costs 5 mana, it's not that great. It's an elemental, that could be something, but I don't think the elemental decks want that type of expensive card. Yeah, I'm not too hyped about it. It's definitely limited playable, but it's not the greatest card. Flash is nice to have, maybe in the Flash decks we'll play it. I'll definitely in the Flash decks, but yeah, we don't have that many expensive spells in the Flash decks as well, so not that great really. Archon of Sun's Grace. Flying lifelink, Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink, and you have the constellation that can create you Pegasus creature tokens. So that could be some kind of Pegasus tribal deck maybe. You can also just play it as is in an enchantment style deck to get your some Pegasus, I don't know. And yeah, have the Archon get you some lifelinkers. So that's nice, flying lifelinkers even. So yeah, definitely limited playable, maybe even constructed. We'll have to see how the meta shakes out for that. Whirlwind Denial. For each spell and ability your opponent controls, counter it unless its controller plays 4. So that's a counter spell where when your opponent has lots of abilities on the trigger. I'm not thinking right now of a situation that will come up in, but you'll definitely have those types of situations. You have a cat oven decks that have some triggers. You have, yeah, maybe some maybe some escape cards that can produce some triggers. I'm not sure about that, but it will definitely see play somewhere. It's an annoying counter spell again, and yeah, paying 4 is essentially a hard counter for most stages of the match. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, because Simic needs its broken creature, of course. When Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may gain free life, or you gain free life and draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. So at worst, this is just the worst type of growth spiral. But at best, you can use it every turn to draw you some cards, and that can get out of hand really quick. It also has 6/6, which is great. And yeah, you need to escape it for the 4 mana in the Simic colors, but definitely something you'll keep in mind for your Simic deck. It could really get broken again, this color combination, because it's already broken, but Simic Ramp could get broken again, not just Simic Flash. When Careless Celebrant dies, it deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. The Satyr is nice for the Satyr deck, but I think it's only a limited card. Kiora Bess the Sea God. Create an 8/8 Kraken creature token with hexproof. Tap all non-land permanents your opponent controls. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. And you gain control in the third saga step of target permanent an opponent controls and untap it. So this is an insane card. It costs 7 mana. That's a bit much, but it's definitely a card I'll put in some decks. Stealing stuff from your opponent is always something I like. Tapping your opponent's stuff can get you a lot of tempo advantage, especially when you have an 8/8 waiting to swing in. So Kiora Best the Sea God's definitely a card I'm looking forward to. 7 mana is a lot, but I will try to make it work. Maybe this is another piece for the Simic deck you really need. Maybe you put in some mass manipulations in, or Agent of Treachery, and just steal everything your opponent has. Of course, this can be countered, so you'll have to watch out that it doesn't get countered at some point. Croxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Legendary creature Elder Giant. When Croxa enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Yeah, this is also a nice card because each opponent discards a card, and then each opponent who didn't discard a card loses 3 life. So if you have a discard style deck, this could work. I don't know if Engrave the Flameshained is still in a standard. This was one of the first cards I really loved playing around. This might work together with that. I think it's still in standard. I'm not sure about that. And you can escape this card as well. So yeah, this is, or you have to escape it if you want to bring it onto the battlefield, of course. But it's definitely, at worst, it's a bad discard spell. At best, it's a very nice creature that's also discard spell every turn. So I'll definitely try to work some type of Boros No, not Boros. Why am I saying Boros again every time? Some time of Rakdos discard deck and play this card in it. It will be very nice. Fateful End. Fateful End deals 3 damage to any target. Scry 1. Okay, this is limited card. Ichthyomorphis. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and it's a blue fish with base power and toughness 0/1. Okay, that's a nice removal, especially in or mostly in limited. I don't think you will play that in constructed, but we did see Kenris transformation get some play in constructed, so maybe I can see that coming around there, but yeah, probably not. Soulguide Lantern. When Soulguide Lantern enters the battlefield, exile card from graveyard, sacrifice it to exile each opponent's graveyard, and sacrifice it to draw a card. This is nice, graveyard hate, so against all these escape mechanics, against the cat oven decks, you'll want your Soulguide Lantern in the sideboard for constructed, and you're definitely gonna play that in limited as well because of so many escape cards that are relevant in this format. Okay, All-State of Life's Bounty, Lifelink. Sacrifice it and target creature or enchantment you control gains protection of the color of your choice until the end of turn. Very nice protection card. Definitely gonna see it play in mono white decks, maybe in other white decks as well. Just 1 mana for a 1/1 is okay. And it has lifelink. It is also an enchantment if you care about that in your deck. So definitely a card I'll check out in standard and limited. Next we have the Altar of the Pantheon. Your devotion to each color is increased by 1, and you add 1 mana of any color. If you control a god, demigod, or legendary enchantment, you gain 1 life. Yeah, this is okay for limited, but yeah, it's not strong enough for standard by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm going to go back on the back screen. Okay, Terranike, a Crown Veteran, has Vigilance, and whenever it attacks, untap another target creature and give it 4/4 and indestructible. So if you have a creature that can't be blocked, those small blue creatures for example, you can definitely make it bigger and not be able to block. If you have something that cares about not getting or to get through for damage or maybe attacking or something, but you would have it die, you can make it indestructible. But yeah, it gives also vigilance for 1 turn effectively to other creatures. So that's a nice card. I'll definitely play that in mono white, maybe in some other deck. Boros comes to mind. Yeah, that's just a nice card. Scophos Mace Warden gets +1/+1 if you pay 1 mana, and whenever another creature becomes the target of an ability of a land you control named Labyrinth of Scophos. I don't know what that is yet. You may have it fight that creature. Okay. So we'll have to see about the Labyrinth. I don't know if it's in the spoilers yet, but this could definitely be a card in limited. I don't think constructed it will be that great, but in limited I can definitely see that. Dreamshaper Shaman. Dreamshaper Shaman, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 2 and a red to sacrifice a non-land permanent. If you do, you reveal cards off the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent, and you can put that onto the battlefield. Onto the battlefield is very nice. That can give you some insane cards onto the battlefield. It does cost you 6 mana, this card, so not that sure if it will work in constructed, but maybe if you have some kind of Dracusev deck or some really strong creatures you want to put in, maybe some green-red strategy, you'll definitely want the Dreamshaper Shaman to get you stuff onto the battlefield. So I'll definitely try that out in standard. Not sure yet if it will be that great. Sea God's Scorn. It's a sorcery. You return up to 3 target creatures and or enchantments to their owner's hand. Yeah, it's an okay sweeper in limited, but I don't think it will see play in standard at 6 mana. Probably not. Eidolon of its Obstruction has First Strike and Loyalty abilities of Planeswalker your opponent's controls cost 1 mana more to activate. So it's an okay card against Planeswalkers. Many people are hyped about that because they hate Planeswalker for some reason, but for me it's not that great of a card. If your opponent pays a lot of Planeswalkers, you play that, but I don't think you play that in limited and even standard that much. Thassa's Oracle, when it enters the battlefield, look at the top X card of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. put one of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom. And if X equals more than the number of cards in your libraries, you win the game. So yeah, we'll definitely try to build some janky deck around that to win the game with this effect. And it also just gives you some very nice card selection in your mono blue strategies. It's sad that you don't draw the card, you just put it onto top of your library, but yeah, for 2 mana you can not really expect more. It's just a great card. Calyx, Destiny's Hand, has a lot of stuff it can do, but I think especially with it only looking at enchantment cards, not at land cards, for example, like Vivian Arcbow Ranger or Vivian Reed did, not any Arcbow Rangers or something, but Vivian Reed did that. But yeah, I don't think this card is very great. We'll have to see. You can exile stuff with it, but at 4 loyalty with the start, it's not that great at 4 mana. I don't think it will be that good of a card. Enigmatic Incarnation. At the beginning of your next end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus sacrificed enchantments CMC. Yeah, you can put that into the battlefield, of course. Just doesn't feel good. I don't know. I mean, you can get stuff out of your library. It's always good if you need a specific card that can help you. But you will need to sacrifice another enchantment. You can't sacrifice Enigmatic Incarnation for itself. So, I don't know. If you want to find something specific, maybe this can work out. But I don't think I will play much around with this card. Laguna Band Storyteller. So when Laguna Band Storyteller enters the battlefield, you may put target enchantment cards from your graveyard on top of your library. And you gain life equal to its converted mana cost. So yeah, this is good for enchantment type decks, but probably only in limited. I don't think I'll play much around with that in constructed, because 4 mana for 3/4 with that ability, it doesn't feel very great. Furious Rise. Enchantment at the beginning of your end step. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card. Okay. This can work pretty well, as mostly gives you just a card for 1 turn, like for example Light Up the Stage does, but it can also give you that card for more turns if your creature with power 4 or greater dies, so it gives you a bit of a safety net there. You at least have your exiled card. Yeah, this might work in some mono-red, mid-range type of decks, devotion type decks, only has 1 red symbol. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm definitely gonna work around with that some, but I don't think it's the best card you have. Light Up the Stage still much better, I think, and yeah, maybe in this mono red decks, but we'll have to see. Destiny Spinner. Creatures or enchantment spells you control can't be countered. Can't be countered. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn, where X is your number of enchantments you control. It's still a land. Okay, stuff not being able to be countered is my type of card. I love this card. I hate counter spells to the bone. So I'm definitely gonna put 4 of those in my mono green devotion decks. You can't stop me from doing that. I'm gonna play that in limited. I'm gonna play that in standard. I'm gonna play that card all around. I love it. And next we have Mindwreck Harpy. Mindwreck Harpy has flying, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, each player puts the top 3 cards of their library into the graveyard. So some mill for both parties. 4 mana, 3/2. Nah, I won't play that in any. Maybe in limited, yeah. If you need some type of filler for your deck, flying is nice. Other than that, it's just a bad card. Swimmer in Nightmares. Swimmer in Nightmares gets +3/+0 as long as there are 10 or more cards in a single graveyard. So that's something you you can do with your opponent's graveyard or your own graveyard, and it can't be blocked as long as you control an Ashiok Planeswalker. Ooh, that can definitely fit in the Ashiok type mill decks. It's probably better in standard than it is in limited, but even in limited I can see that working. And yeah, I'm gonna put that in my mill decks, in my Dimir mill decks I'm gonna play. Ashiok's Forerunner has flash, And when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for Ashiok Sculptor of Fears, reveal it, put it into your hand, and yeah, 5 mana for to get the bigger Ashiok Planeswalker. I'm not sure I want to play that in my Ashiok deck even. I don't think so. It's just too expensive for what it does. Also doesn't have flying or anything like that, just flash. But yeah, I don't think that's worth it. As long as it's your Sunlit Hoplite, as long as it's your turn, Sunlit Hoplite has first strike and it gets +1/+0. As long as you have Elspeth, just even with Elspeth, it's not that great. First strike is nice, so maybe in limited, but definitely not in constructed. Eidolon of Inspiration. 3 mana, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0. It can pump itself, it's very nice. I think I'm gonna play that in Mono White Devotion. Even in Standard I can see that getting some play. Cause yeah, enchantments are nice, creatures that can pump itself and other creatures are always nice. Versatile card, I like it. And you don't even have to attack with it to pump your other creature, so that's great. And Elspeth's Devotee, when Elspeth's Devotee enters your battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Elspeth Undaunted Hero, reveal it, blah blah blah, same as Ashiok. It's also not a great card, same as Ashiok. Hero of the Pride, 2 mana for Cat Soldier. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, creatures you control get +1/+0. Maybe in some kind of aura decks. Not probably in Standard, it's just, I think, not powerful enough. But if you have cards that really want to get in for some damage, that care about how much damage they do, you can definitely look at this card. Favorite of Iroas. It has Constellation, it gains double strike whenever an enchantment gets into the battlefield. So double striking with some auras can be very nice, but it doesn't have any trample or something, so you can just block it. So, not that hyped about it in Standard. Limited, it can definitely see some play. It's, I think, a nice card for that. In Standard, I don't think so. Heroes of the Revel. Satyr Soldier, 4/4 with 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you create another Satyr token that can't block. And whenever you cast a spell that targets it, creatures you control get +1/+0. So it's essentially the same with as Favorite of Iroas, at least the last ability. You can also create some Satyrs. That's good in Limited to have some bodies on the battlefield. In Constructed, it's not powerful enough. Widerwärtige Chimäre. So yeah, this is a German card, so I can translate that myself. It has Escape, and it escapes with a +1/+1 counter, and it's a 4/1. I don't think I'm gonna play Widerwärtige Chimäre. Sorry, it's just 3 mana for 4/1. I mean, 4 is great, but the 1, nah, not gonna play that. And this is a card I cannot translate myself. It is Nightmare Shepherd, enchantment creature demon, flying. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile that creature. If you do, create a token copy of that creature, except it's 1/1 and a nightmare in addition to its other types. This is an insane card. 4/4 for 4 is great. Flying is great. And it essentially keeps your creatures from dying. Or their effects from dying. Of course, the creatures will die and will become a 1/1. But still, if you have something that has enter the battlefield triggers on it, for example, Gary, you can definitely do some crazy stuff with that. It's a great card for Mono Black Devotion. It has 2 black symbols. I will play that in my Mono Black Devotion deck, 4 off definitely. So this is a nice card. Very nice and Limited as well. Very great card all around. Passer's Intervention. You choose 1, look at the top X cards of your library, put up to 2 of them into your hand and the rest of the bottom of your library in random order, or you counter target spells unless its controller pays twice X. So the second part we already know from some other cards that do this stuff, that you have to pay X to not be countered. Yeah, it's a card that has very much flexibility, especially in the late game. I think blue decks will like it, which means I will hate it. But yeah, we'll have to work around that somehow and hope for the best that it won't kill us too often with well-placed counter or well-placed card draw. Shadow Spear, enchanted equipped creature, has +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. And one, you can lose hexproof and indestructible from your opponent's creatures. As there are a lot of indestructible creatures in this format and also some hexproof, I will definitely play Shadow Spear. Probably in most decks that I play, seeing as though it is colorless. And yeah, you can just kill hexproof and indestructible stuff with it. So what's not to like? You can also give a creature trample and lifelink. So this card is just insane. I think that might be one that will be high on the ban list at some point, because god damn, that's a great card for 1 mana. Equip only costs 2, and this wonderful effect, you don't even need to equip it for that. And trample and lifelink, what's not to like? +1/+1 is also great for 1 mana. Perfect. A Bronze-Hilt Lion. Bronze-Hilt Lion gains indestructible until end of turn when you play its mana cost again. When it dies, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant creature you control, and enchanted creature gains indestructible of end of turn, and it loses all other abilities. Okay. This is definitely a card for these type of Celestia enchantment decks that we will see. Just a great card all around. A great card for the mana cost with 2/2 and with the 3/3 for 2 mana, and you can make it indestructible. That's an amazing card. That's really, especially for limited, but also in constructed, you will definitely see a lot of play. Heliod's Pilgrim. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an aura card, reveal it, put it into your hand. Yeah, definitely something in these aura decks. I don't know how good they will be in standard, but definitely in limited you can see that getting play. 3 mana is a bit much for standard maybe, but we'll see if it can actually find itself into these decks. If you have powerful enough auras in your deck, definitely give that a try. Okay, we're getting near the end of the spoiler season. Nyxbloom Ancient has trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. Yeah, Mono Green Devotion will definitely be a very broken type of deck in this format. I'll definitely play that. 5/5 is a bit too low for this type of mana, but it can make you a lot of mana. It gives you some very nice Green Devotion. So in Green Devotion, I'm definitely gonna play that. Next, we have Mystical Renewal. It's an instant, put target enchantment at the bottom of owner's library. One more reason to play green, because you can just get the indestructible enchantment into your opponent's, not even the graveyard, so it can't escape, but onto the opponent's bottom of the library, so you get rid of it for the remainder of the game for 1 mana. An indestructible creature. That's insane. That's an insane card for green. Agonizing Remorse. Target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-land card from it or a card from their graveyard and exile that card, you lose 1 life. Yeah, that's nice. That has some you can use that against something like the cat if the cat can't get out of the graveyard, or you can exile some escape cards, you can exile cards from their hand. You have a lot of flexibility. You also get some nice information with your opponent revealing their hand. I don't know for 2 mana if it will be constructed playable. Probably, I'd say. In certain type of decks. I'll definitely work around with it, but in limited it's just insane. Definitely. Triumphant Surge. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. You gain 4 life. Yeah, nice limited removal. Not much else. If it would be an exile card, it would be better. I think that wouldn't be too much to ask. But it is an instant. That's pretty nice. Elspeth's Nightmare. First lore counter, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And exile target opponent's graveyard. So the third point is very nice against most of the decks in the format. But yeah, points 1 and 2 don't really synergize that well, because opponents that have small creatures will probably not play that many non-land cards in their hand. So I'm not sure how great it will be, 3 mana is also a bit much for these types of effect. 2 mana I would definitely consider it, but yeah, it's also very telegraphed. Your opponent can destroy it before it has its third counter, so not the best card in this format. Elspeth Conquers Death. You exile target permanent an opponent controls with CMC 3 or greater. Non-creature spells your opponent casts cost 2 more to cast. And return target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield, plus a 1/1 counter and a loyalty counter. For 5 mana. I don't think I'll play that outside of limited, really. It's not that great of a card for that high of a cost. So white is still, yeah, getting below average cards, I think, in this rare slots. Dream Trawler. Dream Trawler has flying and lifelink, and whenever you draw a card, Dream Trawler gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. When it attacks, you draw a card, and you can discard a card and get it hexproof until the end of turn and tap it. So it also has lifelink. It's 6 mana though in Azorius. It could be nice in some kind of draw cards deck in Azorius, but I'm not that high on it. It's definitely limited playable, will be great in that format. Constructed, I'm not that convinced yet. Have to see if some other cards came into. Yeah, so these are the newest cards from January 9th. Probably not all the cards that will be spoiled, but it's the last day of spoiler season, so we might miss 1 or 2 cards or so in this video, but other than that, we'll have every spoiled card reviewed here. We have the Acolyte of Affliction here. Human Cleric, when it enters the battlefield, put the 2 top cards of your library into your graveyard. You may then choose a permanent card from your graveyard and put that into your hand. Okay, it's a bit expensive. I don't think it will see many decks that will want to play it in Constructed, but I can definitely see that having some play in Limited. Other than that, I don't think it's strong enough with 2/3 at 4 mana to be played in Standard. Hero of the Games. It's 2 red for Human Soldier. When you cast that spell that targets it, creatures you control gets +1/+0. Okay, in Limited, not something I want to do in Standard, really. It's just not that exciting. Mischievous Chimera. A blue and a red for creature Chimera, has flying. Whenever you cast the first spell during your opponent's turn, deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you scry 1. Yeah, some nice in Is It Flash, I think it will be great. It doesn't have Flash itself though, so yeah, I'm not that great of a fan of Is It Flash anyways. I don't think this card will make that deck more broken than yeah, anything. So yeah, maybe this will see some play, but yeah, it's mostly a limited card, I think. Thaumaturg of Many Faces. God, that's a name. 1 and a blue for Human Wizard. It has Constellation, and you may have it copy another creature and gain this ability. Okay, that's nice. Definitely something I want in these decks that care about enter the battlefield triggers with all these creatures, for example Risen Reef or stuff like that. You can definitely work around that and play this in some great decks. May not be as great in Limited, but well, even there, if you have a great big card you want to copy, it's definitely something you can try out. For just 2 mana, I think it's a great card. Next up, we have Slaughter Priest of Mogis. Counter creature Minotaur Shaman. Each time you sacrifice a permanent, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and you can sacrifice a creature enchantment to give it first strike. Maybe in Rector's Sacrifice, but I think there are better cards to play in Rector's Sacrifice. It's definitely limited playable, but Constructed, I don't think so. Nessian Wanderer, Constellation. You look at the top 3 cards of your library, you may reveal a land card from among them and put it into your hand. To the battlefield would be great, but yeah, maybe in Limited. It's not that great. Also Constellation, it's a bit hard to get because enchantments, of course there are a lot in this set, but not that many that you'll have Constellation every turn. Willow Haven. Enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds another a green mana, so it's essentially a Vivian or a Nissa type effect, and you can sacrifice it to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Yeah, that's a nice little ramp card. I think it will definitely see some play in. Oh wait, that's only for the enchanted land. I thought all lands give you 1 extra mana. Okay, so that's not that great. That's really not great. Even in limited, not really. Thrill of Possibility, instant as an additional cost to cast this card, discard a card, and you can draw 2 cards. Yeah, we know that card from the last set. Unknown Shores, add a generic mana, or you can add 1 mana of any color, and it gets into the battlefield 1 untapped. So it's great to fix your mana, especially in limited. Constructed, probably not. You have better like 2 mana lands, or you have the Fabled Passage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not that great. Yeah, so that was it. Overall, I think this set is very exciting. I'm looking forward to playing with it. Looking forward to play the sealed. Maybe gonna make some videos on it. Let's see. I won't have that much time in the next few days or next few weeks and months, really, because I'm writing my master's thesis. But I hope you enjoyed this video. This very in-depth look on Theros. I think it's a very exciting set, and yeah. I love it too if you heard until now, if you leave it a like, and also subscribe to my channel to see some more videos. Until the next time, this was MTG Deck Tech signing off.